Hashem's V'saitivtach u'v'yagid lasacha. We're now in the 7th parak of Daniel. This parak is going to be the first of several visions that Daniel is going to have. These visions are esoteric, complicated, and let's try to delve into each and every one of them to understand what the lesson is to be gleaned. This is where the commentators start to have a machlokas, a disagreement, a controversy between whether or not Daniel was actually a Navi because he has these visions, or he's not a Navi because he doesn't fully understand, or he needs help, or he gets very bothered by the visions. But needless to say, he is a conduit for Ruach HaKodesh. Now, we understand that the Nevi'im, the books that were compiled, that were put into the Sefer Nevi'im, were ones that were meant to be spoken of. Daniel, as well as where we're up to right now, is in Ksuvim. Now, it doesn't mean that a Navi, like Yirmiyahu, his books of Nevi'im are in the Navi, and yet his book of Eicha is a Megillah in Ksuvim. So it doesn't mean that just because someone's a Navi, they can't write a book of Ksuvim. It just means that it's a complicated issue. But this is going to be the last parak that is going to be in Aramaic because it takes place during the time of Belshazzar, so it gives more authenticity to it, and it also connects us a little bit to that vision that Nebuchadnezzar had, that vision of the four kingdoms. Here too, Daniel is going to have a dream, and in his dream, he is going to have these four visions. Now what's going to happen is, first, some beast is going to emerge from the sea. Why is that significant? Because it comes from down below. It doesn't come from up above. It comes from somewhere, from a deep, dark place, a place that is in need of tikkun. And each one brings darkness and devastation in their midst. So the first is a lion, and that is obviously Bavel. It has eagle wings because it was swift. And most say that it wasn't an eagle, but actually a vulture. And its wings are plucked off because ultimately, as strong as it is and as significant as it is, it's going to lose its steam to Persia. And it's lifted off the ground, and it sets its feet like a man, and it's given the mind of a man. Well, we remember that story. We understand what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. He was a beast for 7 years, and then he ultimately came back, found Hashem, or whatever, saw the light, and carried on until ultimately his demise. And the idea of the gullus of Bavel is that it was, a lion is very significant. It is strong. It is the first of its kind. But the Gemara talks about that it wasn't the strongest. That really, when the day of reckoning comes, it is going to be the last one that we are going to describe, and that's the one that is the worst. But here it's very strong, and as the first, and as its lion, and we've described and we've used that lion metaphor before. Now, all of these are somewhat in nature because it's a lion, but an eagle wings is more like the methodological additives of what it happens, because when one has a dream, it's not a one-to-one correlation with reality. And the idea really being is brute and might. The kavod is, the strength. I am a lion, I roar and I know it, is a midah that Bavel was really, famous for. And for that, the tikkun is someone who is true to the idea that it's not about the kavod, but it's really about the kavod of Hashem, and understanding that you can roar, but ultimately your strength only comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The second is a bear. Now the bear is a very fat, big animal, and Paras and Mazai, they were gluttonous, eat, drink, and be merry. All of those amazing stories of the parties, and ultimately there are three things in its mouth: the three of Dargavesh and Cyrus and Achashverosh, and they eat much and they eat meat, and they're raised on one side, and that was really that the side where Paras Umadai, the different kings that kind of came. It was more so from Persia, and it's uneven. and it's just gluttonous. And that was really the impact of the gluttony, the live in this world and be present in this world in a way that is so gluttonous and doesn't take any stock for where something comes from. Just enjoy, just take and enjoy and brute, no thoughtfulness, and how much that impacted on society. The next is that there is a leopard. Leopard has on it 4 wings, those of a bird, and 4 heads. And what is that? That is the Greeks. Alexander the Great was very great. He dominated over a huge amount of land, and he just quickly took it. And ultimately, upon his demise, what happens, when the 4 wings, when you look to the left, the right, the up, the down, he basically, east, west, north, and south, he had it all. And he died at a very early age. And ultimately, his kingship was a dominion that did not allow for there to be he didn't have any heirs, and so he divided it up, and ultimately that's how his dominion lay. The idea really is that he was powerful in all sort of ways, and everything comparatively was like spots, and he really was a huge dominating force. Now the 4th one is the most interesting because it doesn't have a basis of comparison. It's not an animal that is spoken of. It's not mentioned, but it's just this 4th beast. It's fearsome, it's dreadful, it's powerful. It has these great iron teeth that crush and that nothing remains. And it's different from all the other ones. It has 10 horns. And on those 10 horns, there's this one little horn that's sprouting out that's going to knock down 3 of the other horns to make room for it. And this little horn has eyes and a mouth that can't stop speaking, arrogantly. Now, the Mefarshim talk about what this might be. Some say that is really, it's Rome, it's Edom, and it's also Islam, all wrapped in one. And that's the power of it. That's why it doesn't have necessarily one particular animal, because it's really a combination of all of this just evilness. And that the little horn perhaps is either Muhammad, that kind of sprouted up and changed religion, and really wreaked havoc for both Christianity and for the rest of the world, and changed the world forever. Or some say that it was really the papacy, that it's the Pope, that little guy, and from then on comes, religious wars, which impacted obviously on us, but impacted on the world. And so you can think about it just like that little Pope. Or it's Titus, that he was so arrogant when he destroyed the second base of Mikdash, and there were 10 leaders before him until we got to him, and he was so horrible. But ultimately, it is the superpower. It is the power of Edom and of Ishmael, perhaps all wrapped together. And it's this terrible decision that that it doesn't have any rooting. We can't make sense of it. We can't define it like the other ones, because it's just so evil, and it just wreaks such havoc on society. Now, in contrast to that, he looks on and he sees that there's a throne, and he sees that there's someone on the throne whose garments are white like snow, whose hair is like white and long, and the throne is in flames and it's blazing fire. Now, many have said, well, my gosh, he saw Hashem. Obviously, he didn't see Hashem. It's a mashal. It's a mashal of the beautiful snow that makes and cleanses people on a Yom Kippur, and that everyone comes in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the days of judgment, and Hashem judges, and he tries to do it in a gentle, soft way. But ultimately, to the evil, he will flame. There will be fire. And from forth, they will be destroyed. And inside of this dream there's a court where books that are opened. Why are there so many books? So of course we know that every year we pass before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Yom HaDin. But there's also an additional point that Rabbi Rosner made, that every year after a person dies, their books are also opened. Because if you impact it on the world, you get credit for it, and it impacts on change. And so the books are not just open to the people who are alive, but also to those that have passed. And the arrogant people are killed, and the beings, the beasts are killed, and they're destroyed, and they go down in flames. Now this is then comes this one other, and this is someone that comes from above. It comes in a cloud of heaven. It's a beautiful image, and that is the Mashiach. And the Mashiach comes. Now we know, we know that if it's going to be, that it's going to take a longer time, then it's going to come on a donkey, riding al chamor, and it's going to be looking poor. But here, if it comes in an earlier time, a time that you can't decide where and how, at the end, Daniel describes the time, but I'm not even going to mention it because we're not allowed to check, and it really isn't that important. What's important is that it is, something that is for us to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come, and when He comes, He's going to send the Mashiach. The Mashiach is going to come in the image of clouds because it's like the Ananei HaKavod, and Daniel is disturbed by this vision of these four beasts, and are asked, well, what's the true meaning? And obviously, the meaning is exactly that these are the four kingdoms of the Galus, and the fourth one is so terrible, and these horns and everything is so terrible, and it's going to be for a long time. But ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in His infinite mercy, is also going to save us, and it will be taken away. And that's the promise. The promise is not so much the when. Remember, we don't ask certain questions. We don't ask how or when. That's for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We just have to figure out the why. Why is it not here yet? What can we do differently? And so at the end, while Daniel is alarmed with all of what, he can't exactly put it, because it is very, very, very esoteric. Our idea is just to remember that we have Gullus, and we've gone through all of them. Now we're on the last beast, and it is up to us to bring the Mashiach. And as Rabbi Zakatinsky says, you have to yearn for Mashiach. What does it mean to yearn for Mashiach? It means, number one, that you really want Mashiach, that you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could bring the Mashiach. But the second part of that is that you believe that the Jews could merit the Mashiach. Because sometimes we give up on that dream and we think either we're not worthy or, the truth is, I don't really think society is so worthy. No, we must believe that the Pentele Yid, that inside each and one of us is the desire and the capability to come back to Hashem. And if we do that, if we are able to come back to Hashem, then we're going to bring the Mashiach. And so we can study this parak with the hopes and the prayer that we can learn from the bad mitos, and we can improve ourselves, and we can really grow to be able to be zocheh to that final Mashiach, and we can hold on to that. Daniel didn't give the dates and the times, and he really believed that it could happen, in his time, because his people were, not so bad. We must pull our weight and bring the Mashiach and believe that we can, because if you believe it and you act as though it can be true, then it really can be true.